Okay, well, welcome back to the second part. Now we're going to kind of go into actually what it entails to actually initiate the Handle with Care program in your schools. So we're going to be going through these three different steps. Police encountering the kids at a scene, sending heads up to the schools, how you as the school team prep your staff to be trauma sensitive, and then also thinking about your mental health providers on site with our student services team, as well as school-based mental health and or our teletherapy through our Meaningful Medicine grant. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of history. So we are blessed to West Virginia for beginning the Handle with Care initiative in West Virginia. They started doing some studies back in 2009. And in 2011, I'm not sure how many of you would recall, but that's where West Virginia had a huge opioid crisis. And they were having kids coming to school that have been so impacted by that. And they really started looking into how can we support our kids that are coming from a place of trauma. And so they had a subcommittee, they developed the program, they piloted it in 2013, and then it went statewide. When I say statewide, every single school in West Virginia in 2015 has a Handle with Care program. And we need to get some updated data on here because it's well, in 2025, I can't even tell you how many have it now. There are, I think, about 9 states now that do have it statewide, either by a governor's decree or even by a House bill. Unfortunately, in North Carolina, we have very few counties that are doing it. Henderson County, us in Mecklenburg County, then we have Bladen County, New Hanover County. Wake County is looking into it as well as Forsyth County, and I believe one other county. But we're willing to be able to give anything that we've developed and anything other people have developed and provided to us. And we'd love to have it statewide. So just kind of a little bit of a background on kind of what it looks like and where it's going, hopefully in the future. So where it starts with the police. So our police officers are trained. I'm going to show you kind of a little bit of a video that they had, but we have trained all of the CMPD officers as well as the 6 community, other community police officers. And we actually did it live the first year, but now we do a training video between myself and our folks over at Pat's Place to teach our police how to utilize their website to enter, which I'm going to show you here in a few minutes too. Then other things we want to make sure of that we prep the schools and then our mental health providers. So we're going to talk a little bit about our police. So they gave us a bunch of different options from the West Virginia program, and smaller districts could use just like a little sheet like this to hand to teachers. But because we're so large, we knew that couldn't work. I can tell you Henderson County, they have one email site that several people in the district get, and the police officers just email that email site, and then they're able to go in each day and just forward it to the correct school because, again, they have very few schools. But we were lucky enough to get a small grant with Pat's Place to be able to actually create an application and a website for our police officers. And I'll show you how that email looks like in a second. So they're trained, and then when they're on site, they're going to actually input it into their application. And just know that when you get it, when it releases, usually around 7 a.m. Every morning, you know that the child that's referenced in your notice, that within the last 24 hours, they have been on some type of site where the police were. Right. And they could exhibit academic, emotional, behavior problems, result of exposure to that. And we really want to handle them with care. So what we decided in our application, so this is what it looks like. So you can see here that the 2 contacts at your school, whoever you assign, which we'll talk about later, as well as us at the district and our Pat's Place folks will get this notice from the police officers. And it basically just says you are receiving this Handle with Care notice because one or more of your students was exposed to a potentially traumatic event in the last 24 hours, which resulted in law enforcement first responder response. Then the child referenced below could exhibit academic, emotional, behavior problems as a result to the event. And here, the police officers only have to get the student's name, their age, and the school they go to. And that's all they need. And that's all you're going to see. One of the things we know, we won't get details of the event. It doesn't imply that they or the family instigated it or were directly involved. Could have just been there and witnesses. And we really want to make sure we use caution and sensitivity when sharing this information. We're not going to ask the student directly about the incident within the classroom context. We'll talk about that when you're training your teachers. And then also, again, thinking through more a need to know. Now, if a student comes in that day and tells you what happened, obviously you'll just start working with them like you normally do. But they may not say anything. The parents might not call you, and that is okay. Again, we are not going to go up and ask them what happened the night before. But if kids are seeming off, and we're going to show you some examples of what that might look like, you're still going to approach them and ask them if they need any support, just like you would any other student. But you're just not going to come out and ask them what happened the night before. So again, one of the things when we train our police officers is the second bullet point here. Should I send a handle with care notice? We basically tell them, if you have to ask yourself that, yes, you need to send one, right? And they're going to send one on every child. It's not their place or our place to judge what's traumatizing to a student. Again, if they're exposed to anything that could be traumatizing for anybody, we ask them to send that notice. So again, different counties have different ways to do it. And again, we were lucky enough to be able to get it that will be coming to an email. And when we talk about assigning and talking about who should be getting that at your school, we'll talk through that a little bit later. And again, one of the things we really want with our police departments is really building those relationships. Our middle schools and our high schools have SROs. Our elementary schools do not, but one of our recommendations is, see who the beat cops are in your neighborhood where your school is. Who is your SRO from your feeder middle school that could come over and do things? Because again, we want them to see the police in a positive light and not in a negative light, because we want them to be able to trust them when they are experiencing a traumatic event and need their support. So again, we really want to think through how we can build those relationships. Do some lunch and learns, have them come over, have them bring their motorcycles over to show the kids. But again, we want our police involved with our kids in a positive light. So then what do? Then we're prepping our schools to be trauma sensitive. We hope that a lot of you are already doing this work, just that culture of caring, but we will have a presentation that you guys will do for your staff during the work days in August, or that first teacher staff meeting in early September. It's a short one. You can roll it into your beginning of year training that you do for SWAS. But again, it is a shorter training. And then I'll talk about the other longer trauma trainings we have in CMS. So again, you'll get it typically about 7 a.m. it comes through. So that's one of the things when you're choosing at least the 2 people that are going to receive the notices at your school, the 2 student services. One of the things I'll say you can have as many as you want, but you'll want to have one person that is the one that's kind of responsible for then how to get that triage and how you're going to get that process to get to the teachers that need to know it. And we're going to kind of talk through all those different options. Because again, if you have 4 people reading it, you don't want 4 different people sending the notice to the same teacher. So you guys at the school level are going to determine that. Then you'll have different options. Right. So again, it's going to be need to know. But again, who are those relevant people in the staff that need to know about them? Again, it's their classroom teachers, it's their special area or elective teachers. It could be the SRO. It could be the EC teacher if they're EC. It could be the ML teacher if it's the ML. So you guys will decide at your school who needs to receive these basically on a need to know basis. Nothing stays in the student's record. Nothing stays in the student's record at all. We will have that spreadsheet that we have just because we need to keep up with the data, but we won't have any identifying data from any specific students, but that's more on the district level for everybody. And again, we do not approach this child. This is one of the slides that'll be in your training that you give to your staff, and this is one of the most important ones. Again, we're not approaching the child and asking them unless they're seeming like they're falling asleep. Again, then we're going to go and say, how are you doing? You seem kind of off today. You seem really tired. Is anything going on that we need to help with? So you're still going to follow the same processes when you get these notices with the kids that you normally do. Right. So thinking about some of the things on how you can respond. And again, we want to think back. We want to keep the kids in school. We want to provide that trauma support. We want them to not to be able to stay up with their academics, their social emotional skills. And also we don't want them to be over penalized with discipline if it's coming from a place of trauma. Here are 4 great examples. Student that didn't have a handle with care notice, they come in and they didn't bring their homework, they might get a 0. That might be the policy. But if that teacher gets that handle with care notice that morning and they didn't bring their homework, maybe we give them extra time to do it again because who knows where that homework might be, right? If they got evicted, if somebody got taken to jail, we're not going to badger them about where it is and that they're getting a 0. Give them some time. Let's get it done. Again, they fell asleep in class. A typical student, the consequence might be that they lose recess. Hey, if you get that notice, again, maybe we just send the nurse's office to get some rest, have them go back to the Arctic room to cool down and kind of get themselves together. Again, we're not going to, badger them and ask them why they're falling asleep. Again, maybe they were in the emergency room all night with a parent that might have OD'd and we don't know. Again, we don't need to know why. We just need to be able to respond in a trauma sensitive way. Again, this is another really good example. The student's in the lunch line and accidentally steps on the back of the shoe of another student. That